All right, so what is a family emergency? A lot of times when you speak about or hear about family emergencies, oftentimes it is centered around the loss of someone. But there are other situations that can occur as well that are considered in a family emergency. So the definition here is typically a family emergency is something that occurs unexpectedly and threatens or affects the health or safety of your family members, such as your parents, children, spouse, pets, and even close friends that you consider family. But then it can also be a life-disrupting event, such as if someone is unexpectedly deployed and has to leave their family to serve our country, or even incarcerated. That also is a family emergency situation. Are there any other emergencies that anyone can think of that would fall under that category? There may be a house fire, car accident.
I dealt with
Flooding, yes, definitely flooding. So there are a lot of other circumstances that it's important to have all of your affairs in order and in one place for not just the purpose of death, but in other family emergencies as well, which I list some here. So, of course, we've all lost someone here or know someone who's lost someone this year. The shooting in downtown Dallas of the police officers. The shooting in Las Vegas. There has been a lot of loss this past year, and just kind of want to. These are just some facts that I pulled up here. The top leading causes of death in the United States. Nearly 75% of all deaths in the United States are attributed to just these 10 cases. And the top three, of course, represent 50% of those deaths. Number one being heart disease, and then cancer, chronic lower respiratory disease, accident, stroke. And one in particular that I've actually been trying to focus on and do something with is Alzheimer's. Does anyone have any family members or know someone who, Yes. So, that's something that's very touching to me. I was actually watching a documentary on Alzheimer's, and family members and caregivers of their family that have Alzheimer's say it's like a slow death. The person loses their memory. They don't have any cognizance, and it's a very, very difficult situation. And definitely something where if someone is initially diagnosed with showing signs or symptoms of Alzheimer's or dementia, I think it's very important for the family members to get together and start documenting their affairs, creating a roadmap of their affairs for that situation as that disease progresses. So that's something that I'm actually focusing on. Driving. So one of the most dangerous activities you ever partake in is driving. And I thought this was an interesting statistic that traffic accidents killed 3 times more people worldwide than war and homicide combined. With my product, talking to people about getting their affairs in order, I think it's something for people of all ages, every adult. If you're working, you have income sources, you have a bank account, you have living expenses. I've spoken to some people around their 30s and said that, this is great, it's a great idea, but I don't think it's something for me. I'm not at that stage in my life right now. But then I asked them, well, what if you get into a car accident? A lot of times people just kind of categorize planning as something that you do when you're old. But as we just discussed, there are a lot of other situations that can come up that have taken lives of people of all ages. Overdose. This is a real big one right now, in our country. The opioid problem and the amount of deaths that's causing. Prescription drugs, a lot of times, when people hear overdose, you think illicit drugs. But prescription drugs actually makes up more deaths, the largest percentage of deaths, than cocaine, hallucinogens, inhalants, and heroin combined. So that's a pretty big problem. And just pull up some statistics here that opioid overdose rates actually increased in adults aged 55 to 64. And still the group with the highest overall rates of fatal overdose were adults 45 to 54, which I actually found interesting because that actually scales a little bit higher than the age that I was assuming when you hear them speaking of overdose, in this country in regards to opioids. Slipping in the shower. According to the New York Times, bathrooms can be the most deadly place in the house. Drownings, falls, etc. So you always want to make sure that you shower sober and with a shower mat. Just one of those family emergency, the accidents, that people just don't consider. So I thought that was pretty interesting and fun to throw in there. Old age. This is the one that people most often associate planning with. So if none of the other circumstances get you, old age will eventually take you out. So what I've done here is actually created something called the Family Emergency Plan Challenge. How much do you know about your affairs and the affairs of your loved one? So, show of hands, how many people know exactly where their birth certificate and social security cards are located? That's good, okay. Now what about the person who, you think of that person that if something happened to them and you'd have to manage their affairs, maybe your parents or, that person, do you know where their birth certificate and social security card is located? Okay. What about, okay. What about financial accounts? Of course, you know your own affairs, your finances, your bills, everything that you have to pay, what's auto-debited from your account, what you have arrangements to pay. But what about your loved one? Show of hands, how many people know all of the bills that their loved one pays? And how those...
I think I know. Yeah, but never know, but I think I know.
Okay, all right, you're the exception. But most people don't. Most people don't. And there are a lot of other things. I mean, if you have a business, if you're a small business owner, all the affairs for your business, that's something that someone may not know the details as far as how to run your business if something were to happen to you. If you slipped and fell in the shower and ended up in the hospital or in a coma, medical, that's a big one as well. As far as knowing that person's medical history, if they ended up in the hospital, then, so someone's going to be asked those questions. Do you have a medical directive? Do you know their medical history? Have they had any past surgeries? Any prescriptions that they're taking? Those are questions that, someone would need to be able to answer. So it's great to have, that information. Cell phones, passwords, another thing. Now, how many people remember all the passwords to all their online accounts and apps?
No, few.
Yes. So that's a big one. That is a big one.
I keep it written down.
And I saw a statistic that showed that the #1 question submitted to tech support is, what's my password? Forgot password. And it actually got a little tricky because, they say it's recommended that you don't use the same password for everything, but, we're going in this age of apps and Amazon TV and, all these online accounts. Everyone has an online account, your bank. Just some of them have certain requirements where you can't just use the same password. They'll get you when they say, one letter must be capitalized, you need to have at least a number or another symbol or character. So it's very difficult to keep up with all those things. So imagine your loved one, where everything pretty much is managed online. Finances, everything is managed online. So that's something that you need to also consider and have documented. And then cell phones, of course, contact information. Definitely, the moment someone is in an emergency situation, you're making phone calls. You're trying to call their employer, let them know, hey, this person has passed away, or is in the hospital, or has been in an accident. Having those phone numbers, friends, family, doctor, attorney, all that information is going to be needed immediately when someone passes away. So a lot of times now with the cell phones, they're now having the capabilities where facial recognition and fingerprint access. So it makes it very difficult for a loved one to be able to access your cell phone now. Now I do know that some of them do give you the option to set up a PIN if you are setting up fingerprint access or facial recognition for that purpose. And then there are also some that allow you to add emergency contacts, which is something I encourage all of you to do. Research that and find out how you can add emergency contacts into your phone so that if something were to happen to you, password isn't required to access emergency contacts in your phone. And you definitely also want to list that person as an emergency contact. I believe ICE is what I have next to my mother's name in case of emergency. And first responders, they are used to looking for that type of information, as well as an emergency card. That's something that I'll actually be including in the Family Emergency Plan Creator. But it's good to also have a family emergency card, just a little business card or something that has your medical information, and emergency contacts that you can keep in your wallet, your purse, or somewhere, so that if you were in an accident, someone would be able to at least contact someone, especially if you're a parent, you have kids that are in school or in daycare that need to be picked up. It's very important to make available those emergency contacts and that information. So just something else to consider. So we're going to, so the solution to all of that is creating a plan, which is what this is about, being prepared. And for all of those scenarios, a lot of them that we don't often think about. Now, to create a plan, I'm going to go through the steps. This is just practical information, step by step, what you need to do to create a plan. So first thing you want to do is communicate. Appoint your emergency contacts, create your ICE cards, speak to the loved one that you want to care for your children if something were to happen to you, the person who would care for your pets, the person who would care for your aging parents, or that person that has Alzheimer's, or there are a lot of situations where there's typically one family member. There may be 5 or 6 brothers and sisters, but there's only one family member that's willing or even able sometimes to care for an aging parent or a sick parent. So if something were to happen to that person, your family would be lost trying to care for that person. So those are conversations you want to have. You want to have backup plans. Communicate and think about who you want to have as your financial power of attorney, your medical power of attorney. Discuss where the documents and information will be stored. And then you want to appoint someone that's dependable, somebody you can trust, someone you can count on, someone that possesses the skills, the beliefs, and personality for the roles you need them for. You don't want to assign someone to take care of your finances if that person is not a good steward, or have someone or assume that someone is going to take care of your pets, but they don't like dogs, or they travel a lot. Exactly. So something to think about. As far as that person that you do choose to handle your affairs. Something to think about. And then even a big one is, I was reading some articles about nominating a parental guardian for those that do have minor children. And, a lot of times you just think of that best friend or a close person to take care of your kids, but they may not have space. I mean, there's, or there may be something as far as their beliefs that don't align with yours. So those are conversations you want to have prior to just, something happening to you and your kids are, with someone that you just, I don't know, like would not have nominated to take care of your kids. So those are conversations, and in that same article, that whoever it is that you do nominate as a parental guardian, make sure that they spend some time with your child. You all spend time together because, there are situations where, so that'll allow them the opportunity to get to know that person so that if something were to unexpectedly happen to you, at least they have some type of relationship that's already formed with that person. It's going to be difficult. I mean, all of these circumstances are going to be difficult. And you just want to make things as easy as possible, So that's one of the advantages of having these discussions and putting those plans in place. Let's see here. So number 2, you've thought about, who it is that you want to actually handle certain roles for you. You've had those conversations, giving them a heads up, kind of let them know that you're actually putting a plan together, which is number 1, that's important. I mean, just you doing your will, getting life insurance, organizing your affairs means absolutely nothing if you have not talked to someone to let them know that you have those things in place and where they can locate that information. So, so you want to get organized. You want to make things easier for that person to be able to access that information, and then for yourself. Because when you are planning, I was just having a discussion with Chris from Primerica about people who actually, you're not keeping up with the information as it changes. People get married, people pass away, people buy homes. That information changes, so you definitely want to have things organized so that you can do those spot checks of your plan. It's estimated on average every 3 years, and of course every significant life event is when you want to double check and look at your beneficiaries and see if anything's changed. Heard a lot of stories, horror stories in that situation where people didn't update beneficiaries on their retirement plans and money went to that ex-spouse because just because you get divorced, you still have to update that on your actual policies in your retirement plans, those beneficiaries, because that money will go directly to them. Those are probate avoidance items, so they don't go through the court. So that's something that you definitely want to stay on top of. And just, some things that you can use. So you want to find a filing cabinet, box, a binder, get dividers so that you can add folders, label them, with all the different categories that you're going to be gathering your documents for. So, insurance, you have all your insurance policies in that folder. So if someone needs access to your health insurance, your life insurance, it's in that folder. They can find it quickly. So in a situation like with my aunt where they were asking her, does he have life insurance? She would know exactly, what he has. And so on and so on. And something else, Angie had mentioned in her event where she lost her father, that as they were going through his home and just kind of gathering things and going through things, one of the things that they had difficulty in doing is figuring out where all the keys go. She said he had a lot of keys, and just each key, I don't even know sometimes. My daughter was here for Christmas, put her on a plane back home, and she called me up, the end of the day. Hey, Dad, what are you doing? Oh, I'm just at home working. She's like, yeah, I know you didn't go anywhere because I have your keys. So her mother had to overnight the keys to me. But, I actually had to think, what keys are on my keychain? What is it that I don't have? So, even with our own affairs, we don't know some things. So something I saw, I was actually at Home Depot and came across these key tags. So I think it'd be a great idea maybe to make copies of all of your keys. Purchase these key tags. I think that was maybe $2, and you can actually tag so you would know, as well as your loved one, what these different keys belong to. It would make life so much easier if that circumstance ever comes about where that's needed. And then, of course, also, as far as where you're storing your information, we're going to be giving away a fireproof safe today is one of the giveaways. But you want to document, store your information somewhere that's fireproof. I've been in a couple of house fires, unfortunately. I have friends and family that have had house fires. And, you know, with some of these documents, especially like your estate planning documents, the originals are required. There are some states that are actually adopting laws to where they'll take a digital copy, but there are documents that they would require the original. And you want to store your information in a fireproof place. And then something else while we're on this topic is safe deposit boxes. So a lot of people feel that, you know, okay, well, my information is in a safe deposit box. But what a lot of people are not aware of is that if something happens to you and you don't have another person listed on that safe deposit box, the bank isn't going to let them access that information. And by the time you go through probate and that whole process of getting access to show that, you know, you are able to access this, by that time, all the questions, life insurance and, you know, will and, you know, just everything else is unaccessible. So something to definitely consider with safe deposit boxes, that if you are storing information in a safe deposit box, make sure that you list someone else on there, and not just someone, because I also read that if you list someone as just a beneficiary, they can still have issues, but if it's someone that can actually access it is what you would want to do in that situation. And then lastly, as far as you know, a lot of people are private about this information, their will and who their beneficiaries are. I mean, you don't want to end up in a domestic abuse situation where someone finds out that they're not getting anything in your will or your life insurance. So, you know, so if you are storing that information, you know, in a filing cabinet or safe or somewhere, even a drawer, a little tip is you can actually take your documents, put them in a large envelope, legal size, you know, envelope, and you can duct tape it. So that way, at least you would know. I mean, it'll deter someone, you know, if all of your information is duct taped. But then at least you would know that if that's open, you know, okay, wait a minute, somebody was in my things here. So, you know, just some tips and ideas, you know, just things that people don't usually consider. So number 3, gathering documents. So, you know, as far as once you have that organization method in place, as far as, you know, filing those documents, the next step to creating a plan for emergencies is to start gathering documents. You know, of course, off the top of your head, you'll think of all the important documents, your financial statements, tax returns is one, divorce decrees, your will, your trust documents, social security card, marriage certificates, the retirement information, a list of your bills, a list of your passwords, a list of your contacts, you know, all of that information. And then also think about the things that if something were to happen to me right now, I mean, just something happened to me at this moment, what information would my loved one need to take care of things, you know, outside of these documents? And those are thoughts that you want to have. I, you know, definitely challenge everyone to do that today or after this workshop sometime, once you're creating your plan, to think about those things and document those things, you know, as well. So the next thing, take action. So, you know, once you have your filing system, you have your documents in place, those documents are actually going to be necessary when you have those discussions with your life insurance agent, with your estate planning attorney, with your financial planner, you know, especially like with life insurance where they're trying to determine, okay, well, how much coverage do you need? Let's look at your finances and see, you know, what are you paying? What is your income? You know, so that's information that the advisors would need. So you want to create a team of professional advisors. That's your next step. Seek consultation with an estate planning attorney, a life insurance agent, financial planner, and pre-need specialist. Those are your core things there, to cover you and your family. Of course, we've seen the epidemic, and I believe someone's going to be speaking about that today with the GoFundMe accounts. And, that's, a problem, and just, talking to a life insurance professional, getting a policy in place, would definitely be beneficial and help prevent those situations.